Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we are going to be talking about Ikigai, which you probably know is this really fascinating Japanese concept about living a longer and happier life.
Yeah.
And you guys sent in some really great stuff for us to take a look at. We have some excerpts from the book Ikigai, The Japanese Secret to a Long and Happy Life, and a bunch of articles and web pages. So
Great.
let's just dive right in. So I guess the first thing is like, what is this whole Ikigai thing all about?
Well, the book actually defines it as the place where four things meet.
Okay.
What you love, what you're good at,
Mm-hmm.
what the world needs,
Right.
and what you can get paid for.
So like a Venn diagram of awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
But okay, so
It's interesting
yeah.
that the book begins with a story about a conversation in a Tokyo bar on a rainy night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's,
So it's like
kind of relatable.
it's like these big ideas come from these simple
Right. Yeah,
moments.
exactly.
I love that. Okay, so you mentioned in your notes that you were really interested in the connection between Ikigai and living longer.
Yeah, longevity.
The longevity piece.
Yeah.
And the book actually talks about Okinawa, Japan.
Right. Okinawa is fascinating because it's one of the world's blue zones.
Wait, blue zones? What are those?
Blue zones are areas where people live much longer than average.
Oh, okay.
And the authors use Okinawa as a case study to see how Ikigai might play a role in that longer lifespan.
So that's why it's like Okinawa keeps popping up in articles about Ikigai.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like it's the real world lab for how purpose connects to long life.
Exactly.
Okay, so what stood out to you about the Okinawans' lifestyle? Like what were they doing?
Well, one of the things that stood out to me was their strong social connections.
Okay.
They have this concept called moai,
Moai.
which are these groups of friends that support each other throughout life.
Like a built-in
Yeah, like a built-in support system
support system.
for all of life's ups and downs.
Yeah, that is so powerful. And
Yeah.
especially since you've been thinking a lot about how to build stronger community connections yourself.
Yeah.
It's almost
It's
like
like a blueprint.
it's a blueprint, like how to create those
Right.
lifelong bonds.
Exactly.
Okay, so you have social connection, but the book also talks about flow,
Yes.
that feeling of like being totally absorbed in something.
Yeah.
So what is flow?
Flow is that state where you're so engaged in an activity that time seems to disappear.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that feeling of being in the zone,
Okay.
like a skier effortlessly gliding down a slope.
Uh-huh.
And the book argues that we should try to structure our lives around activities that create this feeling of flow.
That's so true. Like time flies when you're in the zone, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so I can see how this connects to Ikigai.
Mhm.
If you're doing something you're passionate about and you're good at, it's more likely that you'll get into that flow state.
Yeah.
But how do we get more flow in our lives? Like, are there any tips in the book for
You've got some
finding
more
flow?
tips in the book. One strategy is choosing the right challenge level for your activity.
Okay.
If something is too easy,
Mhm.
we get bored.
Right.
But if it's too difficult, we get frustrated.
Right, of course.
So the key is finding that sweet spot
Yeah.
where we're challenged but not overwhelmed.
Oh, that's so interesting because you highlighted this in your notes and you mentioned that you're trying to learn this new skill.
Yeah,
Do you think that applies to like
absolutely.
learning something new?
It applies to learning any new skill,
Okay.
like the one you're working on.
Okay.
If you jump into something that's too advanced,
Yeah.
you might get discouraged.
Right.
But if you start with smaller steps and gradually increase the difficulty,
Yeah.
you're more likely to stay motivated and experience that satisfying feeling of progress.
Oh, it's like setting yourself up for success by finding that Goldilocks zone
Yeah,
of challenge.
right.
I like that. Okay. So what other strategies does the book mention for finding flow?
Well, another key strategy is having a clear objective.
Okay.
So think about video games.
Mm-hmm.
They're so engaging because they have well-defined goals and rules.
Oh, interesting.
And the book suggests we apply that same principle to real life.
Okay.
So whether you're writing a report
Hmm.
or tackling a project, having a specific objective
Yeah.
helps you focus and enter that flow state more easily.
That's so cool. So it's like even video games can teach us something about
Right.
living a good life.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we've got these strategies for flow, but life isn't always about smooth sail, right?
Mhm.
So how does Ikigai help us deal with the inevitable challenges and setbacks that we're all going to face?
Well, this brings up the concept of resilience,
Okay.
the ability to bounce back from difficult experiences.
Mm-hmm.
But the book actually takes it a step further
Okay.
and introduces the idea of anti-fragility.
Anti-fragility.
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds like resilience on steroids.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, so what's the difference?
So resilience helps us withstand hardship,
Mm.
But anti-fragility is about actually getting stronger because of challenges.
So it's not just about surviving,
Right.
thriving
Exactly.
because of the adversity,
Yeah.
like a phoenix rising from the ashes.
Exactly.
But how do we actually become more anti-fragile? Like, are there actual steps we can take?
Yeah, there are, and the book outlines a few.
Okay.
One key step is creating redundancies in our lives.
Okay.
This means diversifying our income streams, our friendships, and even our hobbies.
Okay.
So if one area weakens,
Yeah.
we're not completely thrown off balance.
That's a great point,
Yeah.
especially in today's world.
Yeah. It's like having...
It's like a backup plan for your backup plan.
Exactly. A safety net.
Okay, I love it. So what other steps does the book recommend?
Another step is strategic risk-taking.
Okay.
This isn't about being reckless,
Uh-huh.
but about balancing conservative choices with calculated risks in areas that have high growth potential.
Okay.
We don't want to let fear hold us back from opportunities that could lead to greater fulfillment.
So it's like that balance between playing it safe
Right.
and stepping outside of your comfort zone.
Exactly.
Which, I know you're thinking about starting your own business. So it's about
it's about...
managing that risk, but still pursuing your passions.
Exactly.
Okay, but what about those things that we can't control? Life just throws curveballs at us sometimes.
Yeah,
The things that we just can't plan for.
Right.
What do we do about that?
Well, that's where the final step comes in.
Okay.
Eliminating fragile elements from our lives.
Okay.
So this means identifying and removing things that make us vulnerable or drain our energy.
Like what kind of things?
It could be toxic relationships,
Okay.
unhealthy habits, even clutter in our physical space.
Oh, wow. That's pretty shocker.
Yep.
That's powerful. It's about
Taking control.
taking control of what you can to create a more supportive and empowering environment for yourself.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the more, I guess, practical side of Ikigai, but you also highlighted some of the more philosophical ideas from the book, and you had specifically underlined these sections about wabi-sabi and ichigo-ichi, which I always have trouble pronouncing.
That's interesting.
So what are those all about?
So wabi-sabi is about finding beauty in imperfection.
Okay.
It encourages us to accept the fleeting nature of life and find beauty in the things that are imperfect, impermanent, and incomplete.
So like appreciating the cracks in a beautifully aged teacup.
Exactly.
Or like the way sunlight filters through the leaves of a tree.
Exactly.
Okay, what about ichigo-ichi? What resonated with you about that?
Well, ichigo-ichi reminds us to cherish each moment because it's unique and will never happen again.
Right.
It encourages us to be fully present in each encounter and appreciate the fleeting beauty of life. It's a powerful concept, especially in a world that often encourages us to rush from one thing to the next.
It's about savoring those seemingly ordinary moments and recognizing that they hold a special kind of magic.
Exactly.
And I know you've been exploring mindfulness lately.
Yes.
So it's like bringing that awareness and appreciation to each experience, no matter how small.
Exactly.
Okay, so, wow, this is... It's a lot, but it's
good stuff.
It's good stuff.
It is.
So we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
But there's more to unpack, right?
More, yeah.
Okay, well, let's take a quick break and we'll come right back to continue this conversation. Okay, so we're back, and I'm really fascinated by how these ancient Japanese concepts can offer such relevant guidance for, living in today's world.
Yeah.
But the book doesn't just talk about the philosophy of Ikigai, right?
No, it doesn't.
It also shares stories of people who seem to embody these principles.
That's right.
So what were some of the examples that stood out to you?
Well, the book profiles several centenarians who seem to have really mastered the art of living a long and happy life.
Okay.
And their stories offer kind of a glimpse into what Ikigai looks like in action.
You had mentioned that you were particularly drawn to the stories of those who found purpose later in life. So what were some of the examples that spoke to you?
Well, there's a story about a 102-year-old karate master named Yasutaro Koide.
Wow.
And he attributes his longevity to always having something to look forward to, even in his later years. He continued to train and teach karate.
Okay.
And he found joy and purpose in passing on his knowledge to younger generations.
It's so inspiring to see how passion can keep you going,
Yeah.
regardless of age.
Exactly.
And it makes me think about, your own desire to mentor others. Perhaps there are ways to incorporate that into your Ikigai journey.
Yeah.
Were there any other stories that stood out to you?
Yeah, there was a story about a 100-year-old woman named Misao Okawa.
Okay.
And she found joy in simple things. Spending up with family, enjoying delicious meals,
Right.
appreciating the beauty of nature.
Yeah.
And her story highlights how Ikigai isn't always about these, grand ambitions.
Right.
But it can also be found in those everyday moments of connection and appreciation.
Yeah. That's such a good reminder. It's not always about chasing these big goals, but it's about being present.
Yeah, exactly.
And, appreciating the small things. So how do you actually find your Ikigai? I imagine people listening are like,
right.
How do I discover my purpose? Did the book offer any insight into that?
Yeah, well, the book suggests starting with self-reflection.
Okay.
It encourages you to ask yourself some questions.
Okay.
Like, what are you naturally good at? What did you enjoy doing as a child? What activities make you lose track of time?
Okay.
And sometimes those early passions, or innate talents can offer clues to your true Ikigai.
It's like looking back at your life's journey and being like, where have my passions always led me?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. You had mentioned feeling a bit stuck in a rut lately.
Yeah.
Do you think exploring those early interests might help you?
I think it's certainly worth considering.
Gain some clarity.
Yeah, sometimes we get so caught up in the demands of daily life that we lose sight of the things that truly bring us joy and fulfillment. So revisiting those early passions might spark some new ideas or rekindle those dormant interests.
So it's like going on an archaeological dig within yourself.
Oh.
I love that. But I can imagine it can still feel overwhelming to be like, what is my life's purpose? Did the book offer any steps, practical steps for navigating that?
It did. And the book emphasized the importance of breaking down that journey, of finding your Ikigai into smaller, more manageable steps.
Okay.
So it encourages you to experiment, try new activities, step outside your comfort zone, and try different things until you find something that truly resonates with you.
It's like approaching it as an adventure.
Yeah.
This journey of discovery.
Exactly.
Now, you had mentioned wanting to incorporate more creativity into your life. Do you think this experimental approach could help with that?
I think it could, definitely. Instead of getting bogged down by the pressure of finding that perfect creative outlet, I could just try different things.
Yeah.
Like painting, writing, pottery.
Yeah.
And just see what sparks joy and inspires me to keep exploring.
It's like giving yourself permission to play.
Right, without judgment.
Without judgment, exactly. But, let's say you found your Ikigai, but you're still working a job that isn't really fulfilling.
Right.
So how do you bridge that gap?
Well, the book offers a concept called microflow.
Microflow.
Okay. It's about finding those small moments of joy and engagement within our daily tasks.
Okay.
Even if they're not directly related to our overall Ikigai.
So you're saying even if you haven't found your big purpose, you can still
find those little moments.
Find those little moments.
Of flow in your everyday life.
Yeah. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
And you had highlighted this section in your notes.
I did.
So I'm curious to hear how you see this microflow thing playing out in your own life.
Yeah, well, it's about finding ways to bring elements of Ikigai into my current role. Maybe it's about taking on a project that utilizes my strengths.
Okay.
Or finding ways to connect more meaningfully with colleagues.
Yeah.
It's about shifting my perspective and seeking those small opportunities to inject passion and purpose into my day-to-day tasks.
That is a really great point, that even if you're not,
Right.
Doing your dream job right now,
Exactly.
you can still find those
little sparks.
Little sparks of joy. And make things a little bit brighter.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, but let's face it, staying focused and present can be tough these days. We're constantly bombarded with distractions, notifications, the pressure to be on all the time.
Right.
How does the book address this challenge?
Well, the book emphasizes the importance of mindfulness practices like meditation for training our minds to be more present and focused. It's about learning to quiet the mental chatter and cultivate a sense of inner stillness amidst the chaos of modern life.
You specifically ask about techniques for incorporating mindfulness into everyday life.
I did, yeah.
Did the book offer any insights that you found helpful?
Yeah, one suggestion that stood out to me was the idea of integrating mindfulness into everyday activities.
Okay.
It could be as simple as paying full attention to the sensations of brushing your teeth
Okay.
or savoring each bite of food.
Mm-hmm.
It's about bringing that awareness and intention to even the most mundane tasks.
It's like transforming those routine moments into mini
Right, into mini meditation sessions.
meditation sessions. I love that. It ties back to the Ichigoshi thing, right?
Oh, exactly.
Recognizing the unique beauty of each moment
Yeah.
and experiencing it fully.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have to acknowledge that life isn't always about being present in the moment. We have goals, aspirations, things we're striving for.
Right.
How does the book suggest we approach those goals in a way that aligns with Ikigai?
Well, instead of viewing life as a rigid roadmap, the book suggests using a compass.
Do I like that?
It's about having a clear sense of direction,
Mm-hmm.
knowing your North Star, your Ikigai,
Yeah.
but being open to adapting your course along the way.
It's like a much more flexible approach to achieving your goals.
Right.
It's not about,
It's not about-
like rigidly sticking to a plan.
Right, it's not about being rigid, it's
No.
about having that guiding purpose,
Yeah.
but embracing the journey
Yeah.
and allowing for detours along the way.
Yeah, it's about trusting the process.
Exactly.
And embracing the unknown.
Right.
Which can be scary, but also
Again, it can be rewarding.
rewarding.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but how does the book address those moments when, we inevitably encounter setbacks, disappointments, challenges? Like, how do we cultivate that inner strength to get through those tough times?
Well, the book draws inspiration from ancient philosophies like Buddhism
Okay.
and Stoicism,
Mm-hmm.
both of which emphasize the power of controlling our reactions
Okay.
to external events.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that we can't always control what happens to us.
Mm-hmm.
We can control how we respond.
Yeah. It's a powerful reminder that our inner state
Right.
is often more important than our outer
That's right.
circumstances. So how do we actually do that? How do we cultivate that inner strength,
Yeah.
that ability to choose our response, even in challenging situations? Did the book offer any techniques for that?
Yeah, one technique they highlighted was negative visualization.
Negative visualization.
Yeah, it's a Stoic practice where you mentally rehearse for challenging situations by imagining the worst-case scenario.
Okay.
It sounds counterintuitive,
Yeah, it kind of does.
but by confronting those fears and anxieties head-on, you can kind of mentally and emotionally prepare yourself for whatever life throws your way.
So it's like inoculating yourself against adversity
Right.
by mentally preparing for those challenging situations. It's almost like taking away their power
Yeah.
by facing them head on,
Right.
even if it's just in your mind.
Exactly.
Okay. But then, what about those negative emotions that inevitably arise when we do encounter setbacks?
Yeah.
How does the book suggest we deal with those feelings?
Well, they emphasize the importance of mindfulness meditation
Okay.
for developing emotional resilience.
Okay.
So it's about learning to observe our thoughts and feelings without judgment,
Mm-hmm.
allowing them to come and go without getting swept away by them.
I know you learned it in Struggling with Anxiety in
Yeah.
your notes.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if this concept of
Yeah.
observing your thoughts without judgment really spoke to you.
Yeah. It's
Do you think that approach could be helpful in managing anxiety?
I do, because I think often anxiety stems from getting caught up in those spiraling thoughts and worries.
Yeah.
And so by learning to simply observe those thoughts without attaching to them,
Okay.
I think it can create some distance and prevent them from controlling my emotional state.
It's like taking back that control
Right.
and recognizing that you are not your thoughts.
Exactly.
You are the observer of those thoughts.
Right. Okay. But sometimes it's not just about managing negative emotions, but it's also about accepting things that we just can't change.
Right. Did the book offer any insights into that?
It did. The book talks about embracing the Japanese concept of wabi-sabi,
Yeah.
which we discussed earlier. It's about finding beauty in imperfection and accepting the impermanence of life.
Right.
It encourages us to let go of the need to control everything and find peace in the present moment.
It's about surrendering to the natural flow of life.
Yes.
And recognizing that change is an inevitable part of that.
Exactly.
Yeah. But then they also took that concept of resilience a step further. And we talked about anti-fragility earlier.
Right.
That idea of not just bouncing back from setbacks, but growing stronger because of them.
Right.
So did the book offer any guidance on how to cultivate that level of strength and resilience?
Yeah, they explore several strategies for cultivating anti-fragility.
Okay.
And the first one is something we've touched on before, creating redundancies.
Okay.
It's about diversifying our sources of income, our support, and even our sources of joy. This creates a safety net so that if one area weakens, we're not completely thrown off balance.
It's like building a more robust foundation for our life.
Exactly.
So we're not reliant on any single point of support.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so what other strategies do they recommend?
Another important element is strategic risk-taking.
Okay.
It's about balancing those conservative investments with calculated risks in areas with high growth potential.
Okay.
It's not about being reckless.
Right.
It's about embracing opportunities that could lead to greater fulfillment and growth,
Yeah.
even if they come with some uncertainty.
So this resonates with your desire to start your own business.
It does.
It's about like weighing those risks and rewards,
Right.
but staying true to your Ikigai, pursuing those opportunities that align with your purpose.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about those things that hold us back from taking those risks or embracing new commentaries? Like, what does the book say about those fragile elements in our lives?
Well, the final step in cultivating anti-fragility is eliminating those fragile elements.
Okay.
So the people, the things, the habits that make us vulnerable or drain our energy.
Okay, so that could be like
Toxic relationships.
Unhealthy habits, limiting beliefs.
Limiting beliefs.
That hold us back from pursuing our passions.
It's like taking stock of your life and being like, what? Where am I self-sabotaging or holding myself back?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's about creating a more supportive and empowering environment for yourself.
Right.
Both internally and externally.
Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing how these like
simple concepts,
seemingly simple concepts can have such a profound impact on our lives.
Yeah, it's about making conscious choices and taking those small steps each day to build a life that aligns with our Ikigai.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this episode, but there's still more to explore, right?
There is. The beauty of Ikigai is that it's a lifelong journey. It's a continuous process of growth and discovery.
Yeah, and the book offers a wealth of wisdom to guide us along that path.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Ikigai, like what are some key takeaways that listeners can start applying to their lives right now?
Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways for me is the power of purpose. You know, finding your Ikigai, your reasons for being, is fundamental to living along a happy life.
Okay.
It's what fuels our passion and gives us that drive to keep going, especially when things get tough.
You had mentioned in your notes that you're at a point where you're seeking more meaning in your life.
Yeah.
Do you think this concept of Ikigai could help you with that?
I do, definitely.
Okay.
I think it's a great framework for thinking about like what truly matters to me and how I can align my actions with those values.
Yeah.
So it's about finding that intersection of what I love, what I'm good at, and what the world needs.
It's like a compass, right? Guiding you toward a more fulfilling life.
Yeah.
But for those who have already found their Ikigai, what other like wisdom can they glean from the book?
Well, the book reminds us that living a long and happy life isn't about some like grand elusive goal. It's about appreciating those small joys, those everyday moments that make life beautiful.
Yeah.
It's about nurturing those deep connections with friends and family, those memoirs that provide a sense of belonging and support.
Right.
And it's about staying active and engaged.
Okay.
Pursuing activities that bring us joy and make us feel alive.
You specifically asked about incorporating more movement and activity into your daily routine.
I did, yeah.
Do you see a connection between that desire and the principles of Ikigai?
I do.
Okay.
I think finding an activity that brings me joy and allows me to move my body would definitely align with the principles of Ikigai.
Okay.
It's not just about exercise. It's about finding an activity that makes me feel energized and engaged.
Yeah.
So maybe it's dancing, hiking, joining a sports team.
Right.
Something that brings me joy and helps me stay active.
So it's like finding that sweet spot
Yeah.
between purpose and pleasure.
Exactly.
Effort and ease.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that. But we also have to acknowledge that life isn't always smooth sailing.
Right.
So how does the book equip us to deal with those inevitable challenges and setbacks?
Well, the book reminds us that resilience is essential,
Okay.
that ability to bounce back from adversity.
Mm-hmm.
And it draws upon, the wisdom of Buddhism and Stoicism,
Okay.
encouraging us to focus on what we can control, our reactions to external events.
Right.
It emphasizes the power of, negative visualization,
Mm-hmm.
mentally preparing for challenges,
Yeah.
and the practice of mindfulness,
Mm.
cultivating that inner strength to weather any storm.
In your notes, you expressed a desire to develop more resilience
Yeah.
in dealing with stress and uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the concepts presented in the book could offer some practical tools for that?
I do, yeah. I'm particularly intrigued by the idea of negative visualization.
Mm-hmm.
It seems counterintuitive, but I can see how mentally rehearsing for those difficult situations
Right.
could help me feel more prepared and less overwhelmed when those challenges inevitably arise.
It's taking away their power
Exactly.
by facing them head on, even if it's just in your mind.
Right.
Yeah, okay. But sometimes it's not just about managing those negative emotions, but it's also about accepting the things that we just can't change.
Right?
Does the book offer any insights into that?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
The book emphasizes embracing the impermanence of life, finding beauty in imperfection,
Yeah,
and cherishing the present moment.
right.
It reminds us that change is inevitable,
Mm.
and that letting go of the need for control can bring a profound sense of peace.
It's about surrendering to that natural flow of life.
Yes.
And recognizing that everything is in constant flux.
Yeah.
It ties back to the wabi-sabi and Ikigai.
Exactly.
Right. Finding beauty in that impermanence and cherishing those unique moments. But the book goes even further.
It does, yeah.
We talked about anti-fragility, that ability to not just bounce back, but grow stronger because of it.
Right.
So what insights did you find most valuable in the area?
Well, one of the most powerful concepts for me was the idea of creating redundancies in our lives.
Okay.
This means diversifying our sources of income, our support systems, and even our sources of joy. This creates that safety net so that if one area weakens,
Right.
we're not completely thrown off balance.
You had mentioned exploring different career paths and expanding your skill set. Would you say this concept of creating redundancies resonates with that?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
It encourages me to not put all my eggs in one basket, so to speak, by developing a diverse range of skills.
Yeah.
And exploring different avenues for income generation.
Right.
I can create a more stable and resilient foundation for my future.
It's about creating a life that's adaptable
Exactly.
and resilient in the face of change.
Yeah, okay.
What other strategies for building anti-fragility really spoke to you?
Well, the book also encourages us to embrace strategic risk-taking.
Okay.
And this isn't about being reckless, but about balancing those conservative choices with calculated risks in areas that could lead to greater fulfillment and growth.
And you've been considering taking a leap of faith and pursuing a passion project, right?
I have, yeah.
Does this concept of strategic risk-taking apply to that?
I think it does.
Okay.
It's a reminder that sometimes we need to step outside our comfort zones and take those calculated risks to achieve our goals and live a more fulfilling life.
Yeah.
It's about weighing the potential rewards against the potential downsides and making informed decisions that align with my values and aspirations.
It's about embracing the unknown.
Yeah.
And trusting that even if things don't go exactly as planned,
Right.
the journey itself can be a source of growth.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, but what about those things that hold us back from taking those risks or embracing new challenges? What does the book say about those fragile elements?
Well, the final step in cultivating anti-fragility is eliminating those fragile elements.
Okay.
The people, the things, and the habits that make us vulnerable
Right.
or drain our energy. This would be toxic relationships, unhealthy habits, or even limiting beliefs that hold us back from pursuing our passions.
It's about taking inventory of our lives and identifying those areas where we might be self-sabotaging
Right.
or holding ourselves back.
Exactly.
And consciously choosing to surround ourselves with people and things that support our growth and well-being.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, this deep dive has given me so much to think about. It's inspiring to see how these ancient Japanese concepts can be applied to our modern lives to create a more purposeful, joyful, and resilient existence.
And remember, the journey of Ikigai is a continuous process of growth and discovery. It's about experimenting, adapting, and refining our lives
Yeah.
to align with our deepest values and aspirations.
What stands out to you as like the most important insight from our exploration of Ikigai?
I think, for me, it's the reminder that living a long and happy life isn't about some grand, elusive achievement.
Right.
It's about those small, everyday moments of joy, connection, and purpose. It's about embracing their imperfections,
Yeah.
cherishing the present moment, and cultivating that inner strength to navigate life's inevitable challenges.
You know, this whole conversation has sparked a question for me, and
Yeah.
I'd love for our listeners to kind of ponder this as well.
Okay?
What if Ikigai isn't just about finding our individual purpose? What if it's also about finding our collective purpose,
Yeah.
our shared Ikigai as a society?
That's a great question.
Right. What if, by embracing these principles of longevity, resilience, community, we could create a world where everyone has the opportunity to live a long, happy, and meaningful life? So until next time, keep diving deep and keep seeking your Ikigai.